Hello, this is Doug Farrar, NFL editor of Touchdown Wire for the USA Today Sports Media Group. And in the Touchdown Wire podcast today, we have a very special guest, longtime NFL and college and CFO coach, June Jones, provocateur of the run and shoot offense for a very long time. Coach, wrote a book called The Genius of Desperation a few years ago, which was kind of a schematic history of pro football and intertwined you and Mouse Davis and all that. So it's a real pleasure to talk to you. I want to start with, if you could tell me about your work with Coachtube, which seems like a natural fit, and we're all fans of Coachtube here, how that started and how that's been going for you.
Well, I got involved in that when we had the the in-between seasons of the XFL and so on. And so one of my coaches said that, you need to go online and look at a couple of these things, the air raid, what he did with the air raid. I would like you and Mouse to be able to get on there so that high school coaches and college coaches, and I've even had two pro coaches call me from the NFL off of the tube. So Mouse is almost 90 years old. I think he is 90, and you're not going to be here much longer. And so we met in Portland, Oregon, where we both are from, and we rented a room in an empty hotel because COVID had taken over. So we ended up putting together what I think is a pretty good piece of information that a young coach could certainly value.
People may or may not know about Mouse Davis. I mean, how influential has he been to the game of football, and how influential, obviously, has he been to you as a player, a coach, everything?
Well, to me, he's the reason that I made it in the league. I played 4 years of college football and never got in a game, and transferred. Mouse talked me into playing for him, and that changed my life completely. And then I think Mouse probably has changed the game of football. Let's just say when we went to the pros, nobody was lining up in 4 wide receivers or 5 wide receivers, and the things that we did have changed the game. Now, I would say it's the formation alone is the probably number one thing that everybody lines up in. You watch Arizona play, you watch even Tampa and New England. They're in 3 wides and a tight end, or 4 wides or 5 wides, pretty much the whole game. And so Mouse, I think, 30, 40 years ago, started all that. And then I took it to the National Football League in 1987 with Jerry Glanville. And the rest is really history.
It's funny how it went from Tiger Ellison to Mouse and then to you and other offshoots and, Gilbride with the Giants, which I'll ask you about in a minute. And like you said, today, so many, 3x1 is kind of the standard. You get that Chiefs thing where they got Kelsey as the YISO and Tyreek Hill in the inside slot, and good luck defending that. It's also so much more quick game. I mean, like 60% 0 to 3-step drops. And you get a lot of that out of, pistol or whatever. But how have you seen the NFL, even in the last 5 years, sort of intersperse what you guys were doing all along?
Well, like I said, I think pretty much every NFL team is doing just what you said. They get the ball out fast. They know where the free guys are in the blitz and dogs, because they have to tell you when you spread the formation. And, I'm watching Kansas City with great interest, because to me, they're doing a lot of what Mouse did in the 60s and 70s. And if you really go look at Tiger Ellison's book, all that fly motion, all that short motion, those sweeps and all those different things, that's Tiger Ellison football, which was the original run and shoot. And they've done a great job of putting skill players that are exactly what Mouse did, a little shorter maybe, but faster. And all those guys can just fly.
Yeah, I have run and shoot football back here. I should have put it up. Oh, here it is. Yeah, right there. Go on and get this, kids. Run and shoot football. There you go. There's the plug for today. I wanted to ask you atypically a defensive question.
Mhm.
And I'm interested in your rookie season with the Falcons in 1977. You had Jerry Glanville as your defensive backs coach. And the best NFL defense that nobody ever talks about was Blitz, obviously. Set, I think, the 14-game record for points allowed. Just a crazy defense. Why was that defense so great? I mean, it fell into relative obscurity, but talk a little bit about what you saw. You were on the other side of the ball, obviously, but you got to see that every day. What was that defense like? Why was it so great?
That's a great question. When I was the fourth quarterback in 1977, so I wasn't going to get in a game. I actually went in Jerry Glanville's room. He was the defensive coordinator at the time. And I sat in the back, and I knew what I was going to coach eventually, and I knew I was going to run the offense that I've run forever, but I wanted to learn defense. So I sat in there and actually sat in their meetings more than I did the offensive meetings, and then I ran the scout team against them. That defense, in fact, they talk about the Bears in 85 or 86 when they won the Super Bowl and Buddy Ryan. Well, guess what? Buddy Ryan kind of stole all the concepts from Jerry Glanville. In fact, if you go back and look at the grit splits, the free safeties, in the A gap, we're dogging, everybody's on a peel, and basically it was a 3-4 defense. But at the same time, those ends played as if it was a bear defense. In other words, they read the guards and it went different ways. Nobody was ever doing that. I think I finally got in a game in 1977. That last game, I think I was through a pass even. I was so scared of throwing a pick because we were right on the number of being the fewest points ever scored in ball. And I didn't want to throw an interception and go back that way. So I made sure I didn't throw it downfield at all, overthrew it back, and I completed a swing route, I think, for -1 yard.
Yep. One pass, one completion on one attempt for -1 yard. You did have a quarterback rating of 79.2 though, so that's pretty good.
Well, that was one of the best defenses. They all could run. In fact, Robert Pennywell and we had an outside linebacker, Williams, that actually they were the first kind of backers that could run, 4-5 or better. And so we had great team speed, and that's why we played so good.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of this. Pro Football Reference recently put up the sack totals because done a lot of research with John Turney from Pro Football Journal and all that. So you can look at the sack totals. I mean, Jeff Marrow, who most people haven't heard of, had 10 sacks that season. For Claude Humphrey, we know about him, but a lot of guys who Pennywell's there too had 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, so a lot of stuff. So when you say bear, were you doing like hat over center and outside the guards in a sub? That was the same kind of 46 personnel?
It was basically 46 personnel, yes, but it was a 3-4 defense. Our two defensive ends lined up in what we call, 4 eyes, basically, and they read the guard. So if the guard came out to them, they went one way. If the guard went away, they pinched down inside, and we called it a zip read. And Jeff Merrill and our other defensive end at that time, I can't think of his name right at the moment. My mind is a shot, but they were the run stoppers, basically. I mean, they just shut down the run, and anything that went away, we were bringing the outside backers pretty much all the time, one or both, and any run away, those guys just cut it and could catch it from behind, basically, before it even got to the line. I think it was the fewest yards rushing too. I think that defense had. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna look at that right now. Let's see, rushing yards. You guys allowed 1,858. You allowed 5 touchdowns. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It was a no-name defense, but it was Jerry Glanville's invention, and he still does a lot of what he did back then. Now he coached in that spring league, and he coached in the XFL as well. And I probably know his defense more than anything. And we got that first time I ever went against him was when I was in the XFL. He was at Tampa as defensive coordinator, and we ended up. I knew some things, that most guys don't know, and we ended up lucky. We beat him, I think, 37-27 or something like that.
So you went all John Gruden against the Raiders in that Super Bowl. It's like, I got your checks, I got your everything. Here we go. Why? I mean, because you obviously work with Glanville. Why did you two connect the way you did? What was that done?
Well, when I was coming out at Portland State, Jerry Glanville just happened to be in the room with a guy named John North, who used to be the head coach at New Orleans Saints. He was the running back coach. And John North was watching me, and he said to Jerry, you got to come in here and look at this kid. We threw it 60, 70 times a game. And obviously, he got a lot of looks at me throwing the football. And so Jerry went into Lehman Bennett and Eddie LeBaron and basically showed him the tape and said, we need to get this guy. Well, I had played 6 years of college football at that time. Mouse had got me another year of eligibility for one of the ones that I didn't play. And there was no rule for 6-year free agents at that time. So I was the first legitimate free agent. I was flying to Seattle, going to Kansas City, going to Atlanta, going to Miami, and kind of like they do free agents right now. Well, when I got to Atlanta, Eddie LeBaron came to me and said, hey, the hotel, and he said, look, they just changed the rule. They added 6-year players have to go through the draft. So, we can't sign you. I said, well, let's predate the contract. I said, I've been here since yesterday. Let's just predate it, and you just send it in. And that's how I ended up in Atlanta. I didn't have to go through the draft. And I don't think any other college kids has had that happen to them.
I want to ask you some questions about run and shoot and air raid and all that. For the casual football fan, even the informed football fan, the stuff you've run and, Mouse ran and Tiger Ellison ran, just the evolution of it. If you were to be asked, in a sort of nutshell, what is the run and shoot?
Okay, well, certainly what I have evolved to is a little bit of Mouse, a little bit my own, some Bill Walsh stuff. Bill used to come to Hawaii all the time, the last 10 or 12 years of his life, and spend pretty much all day together for a couple of weeks, and we look at our stuff, and he had some things that he thought would make certain things better, which they did, and so I kind of stole from him and stole from Mouse. I think the number one thing different, and I think Bill even noticed, that our receivers read coverage just like the quarterback does. And that's the biggest difference. Now, some offenses do that, but most offenses don't do it all the time. We do it all the time. So the route is going to change off what the defense does. So basically, you got the chalk last on offense, and you're going to, if you see it, you're going to be right every time. And the quarterback, I think every quarterback that has played for me has had their best year statistically. And I think the reason for that is that we merely take a lot of the pressure off of that quarterback. All he has to do is go through a progression. Okay, so if you're 3-by-1 or 2-by-2, he has one guy he has to read. Is that guy open? Throw him the ball. If he isn't, then go to number 2, go to number 3, go to number 4. And so it's merely a progression that the receivers are reading the coverage and going to get in the right spot. So once you have those 4 guys seeing everything, just like the quarterback sees the one guy that he has to read, then we're going to move the ball on you.
the story of the origin of the option route, it may or may not be apocryphal, is that Tiger Ellison was watching kids in a playground just adjust off, maybe fifth, sixth grade kids, kids running a route. Oh, guys going this way, I'm going to go that way. And he said, hey, I should do that. I don't know if that's true or not, but and certainly, in the Bill Walsh era, I mean, they ran, I know in the Super Bowl second Super Bowl against Cincinnati, I think Taylor's touchdown was an option route. Sid Gilman had some of it, but teams didn't really run it the way like the Patriots have. You look at their playbook; they've got option routes all over the place. In that era, it really wasn't done a lot, was it?
No, it wasn't. In fact, I can remember when I was a rookie in 1977. The next year, I think it was 78, we drafted Junior Miller from Nebraska. He's 6'5", could run 4.5, tight end, and I could remember we had this routes which everybody had at that time. The backs run flats or swings. Everybody runs curls. And so the curls would convert. I said, why don't we convert, if it goes cover two, you get a corner roll, change it to a corner route and let the tight end read the middle of the field. If it goes cover two and it opens up, he goes straight down the middle of the field. And so Steve Bartkowski, I know that year put Junior Miller in the Pro Bowl just off that one route that was converted because he's so fast and so big, no linebacker could run with him. And that's where that was, I give Dick, I give the coaches, a lot of credit for listening at that time because that was a big change to what they were doing. Jimmy Ray was one of them. Dick Wood was another one. And because of that, I listen to my players all the time too. A lot of the adjustments we make in the run and shoot are because, coverage has changed. Like I can remember we played the Dallas Cowboys in a preseason game, and I don't know, we went over 50 points, and Jerry made me stop throwing the ball. Let's just run it. So we just basically ran out the game. And then we went back the next year. That was Tom Landry's. And then the next year, Jimmy Johnson put in four deep. And so we had never seen four deep because we're reading seams, reading middle safety, reading all this thing. So now we had to add something else that you do versus four deep as you're running down the field. And that kind of changed because I would ask the players, you think you can see this? If he does this, you do that. If he does this in four deep and plays this shade, do this. And so the players gave me feedback. And so a lot of the reads that we do now against four deep, or quarter half are routes that the receivers said to me, yes, I could see that. And so we put them in.
Thank you for the segue, because one of the questions I was going to ask you, I'm not sure about the college numbers, but quarters in the NFL over the last 3 years has doubled. Just the percentage. Cover six, obviously, with Brandon Staley and Vic Fangio has become kind of a thing. Why do you think, because cover four used to be a bigger thing, and then it kind of went away with Seattle and everyone wanted to go single hat. Why do you think quarters has made such a comeback in the NFL?
They play quarters to defend the run is really why. And they, safeties are down in those holes really fast. If a hole pops open, they can fill it real fast with one of those half safety or quarter safeties. And I think that also with the combination, they can make quarters by just cheating down a little bit. They can blitz you and then just go man to man. So the four deep looks like blitz. They try to make those two look a lot the same. Now they'll also, as you know, go make the half field look is now Tampa 2 most of the time, with the backer being basically, I call it 3 deep, and we read it 3 deep because that's really what it is. It's 3 deep, but it just happens to be 2 corners are rolling and have the flat. And so we read that linebacker the same way we used to read if it was just a free safety in the middle of the field. So all the receivers in the seams are reading that guy. If they can get on top of him, they go. But if they can't, then they're going to find a hole. And I think that has helped us immensely, that we are way ahead of the game when that Tampa 2 came into play.
There's a myth that's, I'm sure you've heard it. I don't know if it annoys you or not. There's this myth in the NFL, the zone blitz killed the run and shoot. Is there any truth to that?
Well, you can ask Dick LeBeau that. I said in a file. He said we were harder to get to than any team he played, and the zone blitz just opened up bigger holes. Is all it did. We were one of the few teams that could protect against it. Dick was sacking people everywhere, and he didn't get to us very often, and we hit all those seams. And a lot of those things that you talked about earlier, the quick throws, we get our ball out on zone blitzes on the third step. You can be free on the backside of that. Can't get there. You can't get there. So, like I said, I think we're a little bit ahead of the game on this zone blitz stuff. We were seeing it in the 70s, and really it didn't get its notoriety really until maybe the late 80s. But we were seeing all those weird things all the time. And we knew how to handle it, basically.
Yeah, and I know Ron Jaworski and Greg Cosell and Greg Plott talked about this in the Games that changed the game. There's tape of like the Patriots running zone blitzes in 1964. So, everything has different origins. When you got to the Oilers to work with Jerry Glanville, what was that like? And what was it like working with Warren Moon and Jeffries and kind of the 4 receiver set? I mean, how revolutionary was that? And what was sort of the league reaction to, oh my gosh, this whole new thing?
Well, the Oilers did a great job of putting skill players around Warren once we went to what we do. And we drafted fast guys. Drew Hill, we traded for Drew Hill. And he was maybe one of the best slots that I ever had. He never played in the slot. He played as a wide receiver for the Rams on a 2x2 side. So what happened was when I got there in January, I talked with Lad Herzog and Bud, and of course Jerry knew me. He wanted to hire me, but they didn't know if I was old enough or experienced enough to be able to coach in the NFL. So they flew me down there. I talked through, did my deal, and Lad Herzog was going to trade Warren Moon to the Raiders. Al wanted it. And I can remember I just came down from Canada a couple years earlier, played against Warren, knew him. And then I watched all the film of the 3 years that Hugh Campbell was at the Oilers, and Warren just got killed. I mean, I want to say, I'm thinking the last game of the year before I got there, Warren got sacked 15 times against the Cowboys. I mean, and he got full on helmet in the face after every throw. I mean, it was the most brutal ass kicking I'd ever seen a quarterback. And so I remember, they were saying, well, he's scared. I said, no wonder he's scared. I mean, look at this film. So I talked Lad into let me at least work with him in the OTAs in the spring, and which we did quite a bit back then. We had 7-on-7s and 1-on-1s and everything. And I took Warren and talked him into not trading him after OTAs because he still wanted him out. I said, let's go through preseason and see how, it goes, make your decision as we go. Well, Warren, I knew was going to excel in what we did. I mean, I just knew it. He was so accurate with the ball, and he got the ball out. He now knew kind of the progression, so he could get the ball out quickly. And we had a really good football team. I mean, I want to say they went from the worst in the league to making the playoffs, and we were one of the top offensive teams in football over the next couple of years. And then I left and went to Detroit, and Kevin Gilbride took over with Jerry, because I told I had talked to Kevin back when he was at Boston College and he was at another school in Tennessee And I told him, Jerry, I said, I think this guy knows the offense, he could certainly run it. So Jerry didn't even know who he was and hired him because he wanted to continue to run our offense. So that's kind of
go ahead.
I said that was kind of the Oilers. Kevin completely went to total run and shoot when Jack Pardee got the head job.
Right. Which of course rubbed Buddy Ryan the wrong way altogether famously. So yeah, week 4 in the 1985 season, Cowboys beat the Oilers 17-10. Warren Moon went 11 for 26, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 12 sacks officially.
Okay, there we go.
That's nasty. That's yeah. And I was going to ask you about the CFL because, and I would watch it later. It seemed like they had a lot of spread concepts, a lot of air raid, a lot of run and shoot. And I don't know if because you can do different things with motion, but were there sort of spread or air raid or run and shoot or whatever you want to call it aspects to the CFL at that point that helped Warren acclimate to what you wanted to do?
I think it probably did. He's familiar with the spread formations more than he was 2 tight ends and 2 backs and all that stuff. So I think, Warren came down, even having a lot of success in Canada. He came into the league truly as a rookie because he wasn't running the same thing that he had run. And so those were kind of like what used to happen to rookie quarterbacks when you forced them into the league quickly. But Warren was tough and accurate, and he had all the skills to be a Hall of Famer for sure.
I want to ask you about another quarterback, Jeff George, and we all know about the sideline thing. And if you want to talk about that or not, your prerogative. But what, that, because it worked for a while and it worked really well. And, Jeff George's, his history is interesting. What was your experience like working with him?
Well, he's the most accurate passer and quickest release. And I mean, you go look, I don't know, probably have his stats right there, but I want to say in 95, we're the only team to have 5 players over 1,000 yards on the same team. And Jeff threw for 4,500 or so. His highest completion percentage, I think, was with us. That situation was just unfortunate. And Jeff and I, in fact, I talked to Jeff yesterday actually about his son Jaden, trying to find him a spot leaving Alabama. And so we are good friends still, and that was just an unfortunate situation. And if you ask Jeff about it now, he'll tell you that he wishes that that he had not done what he done and played in my offense and for me for his whole career. And I wish he would have too, but it just didn't. That situation had to be handled the way it did. Otherwise, you lose the whole team. Yeah. And I think that had he stayed in my offense, his numbers would be untouchable. I mean, he's that good throwing the football.
Yeah, 95, you had Eric Metcalf, Bert Emanuel, and Terrence Mathis all over 1,000 receiving yards. Then you had Ironhead Hayward.
His only year he went over 400 yards rushing.
Yeah, so and that's kind of, everyone assumes, and you had, running game at SMU, everyone assumes you never run the ball in this kind of offense, which obviously isn't true.
I kind of want him to think that.
Yeah.
Because we do. I mean, Zach Line rushed, almost broke Eric Dickerson's record. If he hadn't hurt his foot in the last game, he would have. And then Ironhead, I want to say, had almost 1,100 yards and made the Pro Bowl for his only time that he did in his career. So I mean, that's just think of that right now. With all this being done in the league since that 95 season, nobody has broken that record. It still stands. And the rule changes and the formations and everything that everybody's running now, there's never been 5 players go over 1,000 yards.
Yeah. When you look at Gilbride ran that offense with the Giants to 2 Super Bowls. You look at the Chiefs where Andy got fired in Philadelphia and then he started talking to Childress about spread game coordinator. He brought Chris Alt in. He did all these different things. kind of a twofold question here. How gratifying is it to see these aspects of what you all did persevere in the NFL and expand? And do NFL coaches today reach out to you to kind of get that insight of, hey, we're doing this, but what if we did that?
Kevin Gilbride ran our offense at Jacksonville too, and took him to that Super Bowl, I think it was, with the left-handed Brunell. Wasn't it the quarterback at that time?
Yeah, I think they got to the AFC Championship.
AFC Championship. Okay. Yeah, and they were like, I think 12-4 and won their division, but they also ran it there, and that's why Coughlin, when he got the job at the Giants, took Kevin up there with him. So Kevin used tight ends as slots. He went tight end 3 wides, and he went 4 wide some, but they also ran a lot of other things. But Kevin really had a lot of success running our base concepts at the Giants. It is gratifying to see those things happening. It's gratifying, to get calls. I talked to Brian Daboll in Buffalo, and they actually have run and shoot package because they got Beasley and they got Emmanuel Sanders, 2 guys that know a lot of the keys. In fact, I go online and see what they're doing, and Emmanuel or Bees, I guess, told me they have something called the Mustang package, and that is the concepts of streak, switch, choice, go that they run. And that quarterback from Wyoming, he's gotten better and better and better. And I think a lot of that is because of the quick throws that you're talking about, getting the ball out. And then he has the accuracy now down the field. I was not coming out of Wyoming. That's the only thing that concerned me, was he going to be accurate enough down the field? And I think last year that he proved that he is. He got better.
Oh, Josh Allen got a ton better. I'm not sure about 5. I know they ran more 4 receiver sets than any other team. And that Josh Allen season was kind of, because early on, he was just, they were playing on a man against him, which I don't know why you would play a bunch of man against a big athletic quarterback. That's just mean. He was ripping man to bits with Dabble doing what he did. And there was kind of that 3-game stretch where they were doing a lot of switches and his head kind of exploded. So they went quick game underneath, just get your bearings. And then it seemed like about halfway through the season, he just got it. Went on, and there you go. So yeah, the Bills, that's a really good example of kind of I have a couple questions from my colleague Mark Schofield, who really wanted to be in on this. Mark played quarterback at Wesleyan, so he knows more about this than I do. But he wanted to know about it. You gave a clinic in 2006 where you talked about the levels concept and how it has so many different ways to beat defenses. And I have a feeling he's going to write an article about this based on your answer, knowing Mark. What is it about levels that stresses defenses almost regardless of coverage?
Well, the levels concept I stole from Ted Marchibroda, and he was he and the other guy that was at Indianapolis that went to Buffalo, where Jim Kelly, I played for us at the Gamblers. And so I watched Buffalo that year, or those 4 or 5 years, real closely. And levels was something that we had not done, but I watched, and once I had time to talk to Jim Kelly about it, the reads off of it, the ball comes out quickly, okay? And it's easy concepts for the quarterback as well. Is that guy open off of the one guy you're reading? He is throwing the ball. If you elect that guy's not open before the ball is snapped, then read the backside inside linebacker. If he does this, hit this guy. If he does that, hit that guy. And so that concept for the quarterback is real easy. At the same time, he gets the ball going out fast, and if you make a guy miss on the catch, it's a big play. Right. And even though they're short routes. Now, we kind of added to that the levels. We had level special, which meant now the inside guy had the 12 and this guy had the 5 yard under. And so we added levels and we put in the run and shoot stuff now, that rather than run that 12-yard in over the top of the inside backer, you go ahead and read the top of the coverage like you did choice. So now if they went cover 2, he had the option to take a post down the middle, and the quarterback could put that on him. So it was all those concepts looking like run and shoot stuff, but levels had a whole different feel. In fact, I can remember one game in Hawaii. We were going to go no huddle in the first drive. And I told Colt, I said, you just take it at the line and call levels all the way until they stop us. We went all the way down the field and scored a touchdown on about the 8th play. And we didn't huddle, and we just ran levels. And he could go special or regular or change. And at that time, we used to give a signal to what we wanted outside to the receiver on the right. The single receiver could look and tell the quarterback. He'd give him a signal. Well, I'm going to run an out. I'm going to run a post. I'm going to run a curl. I'm going to run a 9. So he would signal to the quarterback what he wanted to do. The quarterback didn't have to throw it, but if he wanted to, he could.
So choice off of levels, that's diabolical. Did you, because I know Arians loves to run, he'll run levels to the front side, then a quick crosser, just like the hot to the back. Would you guys do stuff like that?
We did not get into that. I was always on to the levels was on the back side of it.
Okay.
But we did some things that looked like levels, started out like levels on the trip side, but it wasn't, they weren't running the 12 and in, the 5 and under and all that.
You mentioned Colt Brennan. Tell me about him. Obviously very sad news this year.
Yeah, that was a tough one. He probably, had he not gotten into all the off-field issues, he would have made it. He was as accurate a passer as I'd ever been around, and had the ability to create plays within the pocket. And the thing I liked about him, he could run, but he always was moving, looking to throw it before to run. And so therefore he created a lot of plays when things broke down. His stats, you can go back and double check them in the NFL. I think he played only in preseason, and he was 44 of 51. I think 12 touchdowns, no picks, 8 touchdowns and no picks. And you look at those stats, no other rookie has anything like that and get cut. So I talked to Jim Zorn, I talked to Shanahan, and basically it was the nightclubs and the off-field stuff that got him off. Not his play, that's for sure. In fact, I still remember watching them play in the preseason game, and John Madden was just beside himself on this kid, Colt Brennan. In fact, it's still on YouTube. You can pull that up, I'm sure. But his comments were, "Who is this guy? This guy's this throw. Look at that throw. Look at this throw." But that's just how Colt was.
You mentioned running to throw. It's something. There's a lot of debate with Mac Jones, and it's kind of why evaluating him, it gave me pause, because in today's NFL, with the fronts are so advanced, there's so much pressure going on. Can you win as a quarterback? Can you consistently win in the NFL as a quarterback without second reaction ability, or that ability to move? Because everyone talks about Brady. Brady's Brady. I mean, that's one. Can you come into the NFL and win today? You don't have to be Michael Vick, but without some sort of second reaction ability. Is that even possible anymore?
I think the system has to be set up to give the quarterback the ability to do that. And so to answer your question, I say yes, you can. In fact, if you really go back and look at Tom Brady when he was at New England, he had a great movement in the pocket. He saw a free guy here, slide up, slide over. He did all those things. And so if you have a guy that can do that, which I'm like you, I think I was the first one to say that Mac Jones is a NFL, he may be the best player in this draft. And I still am going to say that until somebody proves me wrong. But I'm reading everything in New England right now. The players are saying that he is the best. And so it's not going to surprise me when he walks in and does what he did at Alabama, just like he's going to do at New England. He's seen it. He knows it. He has that ability to move in the pocket, and he's not a runner, but he can move and slide, and he finds guys to put the ball on, and his accuracy is ridiculous. I've never seen a guy over 20 yards as accurate as he is.
Yeah. So, and that you're really good with segues. I was going to ask you about kind of the quarterbacks in this class. Would he be your QB1 out of the 2021 class?
Yes, he would be. Yeah. I like the kid at Clemson. I think he's I like the kid at Ohio State, but they are not running NFL offenses. Right. They are merely a play action and got one guy to throw to most of the time. They don't read defense. In fact, when you saw the kid from Ohio State,
Fields,
pop back and throw and read coverage in 2-minute drills and stuff, he struggled. And I'm not so sure that the Clemson kid won't have some success because Urban has had him in that offense, or basically they're running Urban's offense when they were at Clemson. And so I'm sure they'll have some things in there that he'll feel comfortable with. But even him, when you just drop back 5 steps or in the shotgun and have to make decisions off coverage, he's going to be a rookie. I mean, he's going to be a rookie because he's not had to do that before.
So when you have a guy, you're the quarterback coach, you're the OC. You have a guy who did not read NFL defenses in college or anything close to it, anything approximating that. He's now your quarterback, whether you like it or not. How do you transition him to be able to be functional in the league?
That's a good question because it doesn't happen very often anymore. Now, number 1 draft pick, usually you sat on the bench for 3 or 4 years in the 80s or 70s and learned how to play the game. They don't give you that freedom anymore. Now, if you're a high draft pick, you're in the game right away, and you have to learn the game as you play the game, which is hard to do. And that's why I'm saying these guys are going to have difficulty. Where I think Mac Jones is running the same offense at New England that he did at Alabama. So he knows, I mean, he's doing the same things at New England that he was doing in college, where those other quarterbacks are not doing the same things they did in college. They have to learn a new offense like the rookies did 20 years ago. So you better put in some things that if you're going to be forced to start that guy, you better run the ball, play action pass, and get the ball out quick on some things that he doesn't have to read real fast.
Final question for you, and thanks again for doing this. I like to ask people I talk to on the podcast this question because everyone has different answers. If you were to fast forward to 2025, think of different schematic trends you might have seen at the high school or college level, because everything sort of comes up from there. What do you think schematically will be happening in the NFL that either isn't happening at all now or isn't happening a lot and is going to kind of take over?
I think the empty set is gonna be more prevalent than ever before. I think that the teams are understanding how easy it is to know where the free rusher is, and they always now that you get no back in there, and you go 4 wides and a tight end with no back. I mean, that is something crazy. They're so fast, the receivers, the quarterbacks can all run, so that scares them to death in the empty. When you're empty, the defensive, if they don't outnumber you on a side in the empty set, the quarterback pulling the ball down and running, if you're playing man to man, there's your rush. So I kind of see the empty set probably going to be more used, and one of the teams that is really doing that a lot is Arizona. Mm-hmm. And that quarterback gets the ball. He knows he can get away from a rush. He can do a lot of different things. So I think we're going to see more of that personally.
When you look at how defenses, and I've talked to different high school and college coaches, and the word that generally comes up when we're talking about NFL defenses is homogenous. But a lot of high school and college coaches are, and it's a different, I mean, obviously you're dealing with, more advanced schemes, better players and all that. But I've talked to a lot of high school and college coaches who are surprised that the NFL isn't taking more defensively from guys like Aranda and whoever, just how to stop these offenses that are becoming more expansive. What are your thoughts about how defense is played against these sort of, everything old is new again? They're not new offenses because you know that better than anyone. But as far as how NFL defense is done generally now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I tend to agree that they're like to watch the quarterback from Louisville in Baltimore,
Lamar.
Lamar, that they're actually running that offense. So the offense that he's run where he is an option to pull it or give it and all that and be the runner, which I think he's going to get killed here pretty soon. Somebody's going to finally manage to take a quarterback out, but they were now kind of defensively forced to defend that because of him. And some of the other teams have implemented some of those concepts, but not all. So all defenses have to have an answer for Lamar and the way he plays. And so that's forcing them to be a little bit more like a college team. They're going to have to practice it. It's kind of like when you used to put in the wishbone. The wishbone always beat up everybody else because you never practiced against it, and that's kind of what's happened with Lamar. So I think as the years go by and the teams are together better, they're obviously going to be more like a Dave Aranda or a college coach that defends that every week and put those concepts in. But I think that's just a fad right now. Personally, I don't see the NFL switching to that whole scheme. Because first of all, the quarterback's your most valuable player.
Yeah,
and risking him in that, I don't think is smart.
So I know you're in Hawaii, not a bad life. What are you doing football wise besides Coachtube?
I do some stuff here with St. Louis High School. Two of my coaches that were with me at the university are the head coach and defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. Both of them they're running our stuff. So I go over there and look at the film, and I can get on their huddle and look at other schools, colleges. They got access to everything. So I kind of do that.
Reminds me of Sid Gilman. You're a lifer, aren't you?
I guess hopefully the USFL or XFL kick off again and I get another 4 or 5 years in.
That would be awesome. Well, Coach June Jones, I really appreciate this. Learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners will too. And thank you so much.
All right. Always good.
Take care.
Thanks. See you. Take care, Doug.